Imagine you're completely lost in an unknown city. You have a state-of-the-art GPS in your pocket. Big screen, satellite, updated map, route calculated in seconds. But you never open the app. You prefer to go by instinct. Ask strangers who don't really know either. Take unnecessary detours. Sometimes you go in the right direction by accident. Most of the time, you don't. This is the relationship most Christians have with the Bible and finances. The manual exists. It's available. It contains detailed instructions on how to earn, save, invest, give, get out of debt, multiply resources, and live with abundance without losing your soul in the process. But most people have never opened that part of the app. Today, we're going to open it. The Bible mentions money over 2,300 times. It has entire books dedicated to practical wisdom, and much of that wisdom is financial. Proverbs is a personal finance manual disguised as spiritual wisdom. Deuteronomy establishes economic principles for an entire nation. Paul's letters deal with administration, generosity, and provision with surprising depth. The biblical financial plan isn't a list of 5 steps to get rich. It's a set of interconnected principles that, when applied together, create a healthy and sustainable financial life, with a dimension that no secular finance book can offer: the spiritual dimension of provision. I'll present the 6 pillars of this plan, not as theory, as practical structure for you to apply. Pillar 1. Honor God with the firstfruits. Proverbs 3 verses 9 to 10 is direct. Honor the Lord with your wealth, with the firstfruits of all your crops. Then your barns will be filled to overflowing. Firstfruits. That word is key. Not the leftovers. Not what remains after paying everything. The first part. The principle behind this isn't financial magic. It's a heart positioning. When you put honoring God first, before the rent bill, before groceries, before any other expense, you're declaring with your behavior that you trust God to provide the rest. This goes against all conventional financial logic, which says to pay your bills first and then see what's left. Biblical logic inverts. First you honor, then you wisely manage the remainder. And there's something interesting about this in practice. People who develop this habit consistently report that they become more attentive to managing what remains, because when you've committed the first portion with purpose, you take better care of what stays. Pillar 2. Live below your means. This pillar is rarely preached, but it's throughout the Bible. Proverbs 21 verse 20. The wise store up choice food and olive oil, but fools gulp theirs down. Treasure and oil in the wise person's house. This isn't coincidence. It's the result of a consistent practice of saving part of what comes in before spending everything. Joseph demonstrated this on a national scale. He collected 1/5 of all produce during 7 years of abundance to sustain Egypt and the known world during 7 years of famine. Genesis 41 verses 34 to 36. He didn't spend everything in the good years. He saved, systematically, a portion. The modern temptation is to use every raise to immediately elevate your standard of living. Earn more, spend more. The result is that financial tension remains constant, just at a higher level. The biblical wise person acts differently. When income increases, they save part of the increase before expanding their lifestyle. Over time, they accumulate. With accumulation comes security. With security, they can be generous without fear. Pillar 3. Flee from debt like you flee from sin. Proverbs 22 verse 7 is one of the Bible's harshest statements about money. The rich rule over the poor, and the borrower is slave to the lender. Slave, not debtor. Slave. The Bible doesn't prohibit all forms of credit, but it treats debt with a seriousness that we, culturally, don't have. In today's society, debt has been normalized. Credit card, car financing, personal loan, revolving credit, it all becomes routine. And most people don't even know exactly how much they're paying in interest each month. Romans 13 verse 8 says, "Let no debt remain outstanding, except the continuing debt to love one another." The biblical financial plan isn't compatible with a permanently indebted life. Debt creates servitude, limits generosity, produces anxiety, and compromises the ability to respond to God's call when it demands financial mobility. Getting out of debt is a process. It doesn't happen overnight. But the biblical plan is clear. Every debt should have a payoff deadline, and no new debt should be taken on without real necessity and a payment plan. Pillar 4. Work with excellence and diligence. The Bible never separates spiritual provision from practical responsibility. It always unites the two. Proverbs 10 verse 4. Lazy hands make for poverty, but diligent hands bring wealth. Proverbs 14 verse 23. All hard work brings a profit, but mere talk leads only to poverty. Proverbs 12 verse 11. Those who work their land will have abundant food, but those who chase fantasies have no sense. Work, in the biblical financial plan, isn't curse, it's vocation. The curse of Eden wasn't work itself, but suffering in work. Adam worked in the garden before the fall. Genesis 2 verse 15. Excellence in work is an expression of worship. Colossians 3 verse 23. Whatever you do, work at it with all your heart, as working for the Lord, not for human masters. This changes work quality. When you work as for the Lord, not for boss, for salary, for recognition, excellence becomes an internal standard, not external pressure. And consistent excellence opens doors. Not always quickly, but consistently. Proverbs 22 verse 29. Do you see someone skilled in their work? They will serve before kings. They will not serve before officials of low rank. Pillar 5. Plan before you act. Luke 14 verse 28. Suppose one of you wants to build a tower. Won't you first sit down and estimate the cost to see if you have enough money to complete it? That's Jesus talking about financial planning. The biblical plan isn't faith without planning. It's faith with planning. The two don't contradict, they complement. Proverbs 15 verse 22. Plans fail for lack of counsel, but with many advisors they succeed. Proverbs 21 verse 5. The plans of the diligent lead to profit as surely as haste leads to poverty. Planning is an act of wisdom. It's recognizing that the future exists, that it has weight, that today's decisions build or tear down tomorrow. People who never budget, never calculate where money went, never project what they need for the future, these people live in reactive mode. And reactive mode is poverty's natural habitat. A budget isn't a prison. It's a map. It's the financial GPS that knows where you are, where you want to go, and what's the most efficient path between the 2 points. Pillar 6. Generosity as a lifestyle. The biblical financial plan never closes the cycle without generosity. It's the 6th pillar, and without it, the other 5 become accumulation without purpose. 2 Corinthians 9 verse 6. Remember this: whoever sows sparingly will also reap sparingly, and whoever sows generously will also reap generously. Proverbs 11 verses 24 to 25. One person gives freely, yet gains even more. Another withholds unduly, but comes to poverty. A generous person will prosper. Whoever refreshes others will be refreshed. Biblical generosity isn't a seed planted to multiply your own wealth. It's a heart posture that recognizes everything belongs to God, that you are a steward, and that part of faithful stewardship is letting flow to where there's need. But there's a real dynamic here that goes beyond spirituality. Generosity expands perspective. People who practice consistent generosity think differently about money. They don't operate from scarcity fear. They don't make financial decisions based on panic. They live in an abundance mindset that is itself a facilitator of prosperity. 6 pillars. 1 cohesive plan. Honor God with the firstfruits. Live below your means. Flee from debt. Work with excellence. Plan with wisdom. Give with generosity. This isn't a magic formula. It's a way of life. And like every way of life, it doesn't produce results in a weekend. It produces results in years, in decades, sometimes in generations. But it produces. The question isn't whether the plan works. The Bible has millennia of evidence that it works. The question is which of these 6 pillars is missing or weakened in your life right now. Because it's right there, exactly there, that you begin. Save this video, because you'll want to come back to it more than once.